Hare Krishna, welcome to this episode of Bhagavad-gītā. Today we are starting the 10th chapter, verses 1 and 2. So we'll say our Mangalacharan prayers and we'll quickly continue. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवम् साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्णकरुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तु ते। तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। It is a common saying that Om Ajnanatimirandhasya is the 47th shloka of Guru Gita by Vyasadeva. That is interesting because I never knew where it was from. So I actually take a note just before the start of the class because I saw the comment already. So I will go and look up on that. Thank you very much for the reference though. So today we are starting a new chapter, chapter 10. Just a second. Hold on. Okay, so chapter 10, texts 1 and 2. So first we'll do text 1. Shri Bhagavanuvacha Bhuya eva mahabaho shृणु me paramam vachah yatteham priyamanaya vakshyami hitakamyaya. Shri Bhagavanuvacha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, Bhuyah, again, eva, certainly, mahabaho, O mighty armed, shृणु, just hear, me, my, paramam, supreme, vachah, instruction, yat, that which, te, to you, aham, I, priyamanaya, thinking you dear to me, vakshyami, say, hitakamyaya, for your benefit. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation: The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, Listen again, O mighty armed Arjuna. Because you are my dear friend, for your benefit, I shall speak to you further, giving knowledge that is better than what I have already explained. I think the original one may slightly sound different, but anyway, pretty much what the Sanskrit is. Purport. The word Bhagavan is explained thus by Parashar Muni, one who is full in 6 opulences, who has full strength, full fame, wealth, knowledge, beauty, and renunciation, is Bhagavan, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead. While Krishna was present on this earth, he displayed all six opulences. Therefore, great sages like Parashar Muni have all accepted Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, Krishna is instructing Arjuna in more confidential knowledge of his opulences and his work. Previously, beginning with the seventh chapter, the Lord has already explained his different energies and how they are acting. Now, in this chapter, he explains his specific opulences to Arjuna. In the previous chapter, he has clearly explained his different energies to establish devotion and firm conviction. Again, in this chapter, he tells Arjuna about his manifestations and various opulences. The more one hears about the Supreme God, the more one becomes fixed in devotional service. One should always hear about the Lord in the association of devotees. That will enhance one's devotional service. Discourses in the society of devotees can take place only among those who are really anxious to be in Krishna consciousness. Others cannot take part in such discourses. The Lord clearly tells Arjuna that because Arjuna is very dear to him, for his benefit, such discourses are taking place. We'll first discuss this verse and then go to the next one. So, very nicely it is said. So, the last Sunday we did chapter 9, text 34, which is the last verse of the ninth chapter. And there, if you remember how it ended, Krishna says that even the most sinful person, um, if he is in devotional service, he is to be considered sadhu because he is rightly situated in his determination. And such determined execution of devotional service will eventually, not eventually, very quickly, in fact, purify him and he will become a dharmatma. And the the devotee won't be lost in his advancement at any time, even though it may be stunted for a while due to an offense or whatever. Whatever he has done in Krishna consciousness will never be lost. And therefore, there is absolutely no loss in devotional service, and there is only gain because even the most unqualified people, intellectually speaking, or spiritual advancement, or in terms of spiritual advancement, Papa Yonaya, sinful people, women, Vaishyas, Shudras, or even Antyajas, all of them can attain to the perfection of devotional service just by executing his devotional service. Um, Now, then he goes on saying that if that is available, if such perfection is available even for the low born or the lesser intelligent class of people, what to speak of the more intelligent class of people, which are the Brahmanas and the devotees and the great kings. So then he concludes by saying the process which takes everyone, whether it's a low born or a high born or low cultured, everything, any class of person can attain the highest perfection by manmana bhava mad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mame vaishyasi yuktvavam atmanah matparayanah. So that's the last verse of the ninth chapter. So he said, just by thinking about me, becoming my devotee, offering my obeisances, and worshipping me, surely you will come to me, without doubt. So that's the process, right? So, how to think of Krishna? How to do that in our everyday life? Should it just be reserved for those philosophers who can really stretch their mental and intellectual capacities, um, and who are gifted with such capabilities? Or, since Krishna said it's available even for the most simple hearted, I mean, even not very advanced persons, they can also attain this. So, how to do this? That is what Krishna is saying now. Because in the fourth chapter, Krishna says, Janma karma chame divyam evam yo vetti tattvataha tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mameti sorjuna. Chapter 4, text 9. He says that whoever knows Krishna can go back to him. without a doubt. And in Chaitanya Charitamrita, we have this verse: Kiba vipra kibanyasi shudra kene noy, Jai Krishna Tattvavit Shai Guru hoy. So it doesn't matter whether one is a Shudra or brahmachari or a sannyasi or whatever. If he knows the signs of Krishna, he can become a guru. So he is capable of relieving himself and relieving others from the clutches of bondage with Krishna consciousness. So how to have this knowledge of Krishna Tattva, how to have this most advanced of knowledge, um, even in our daily life. So that is being explained in this 10th chapter. Krishna's opulences are not very difficult to access. Krishna, we may not see him immediately, but his opulences are on full display. They're everywhere. Ubiquitous, that is the actual word. Ubiquitous means everywhere. So wherever we look, we can see the opulences of Krishna. Of course, Krishna already said, how he is the taste of water, light of the sun, and all these things in the 7th chapter. In this chapter, he expands more on his opulences and how to recognize, how to identify, how to begin to identify, rather, the presence of God everywhere, even in the things we see in this world. So that is Shranumaya Paramam Vachaha. Paramam Vachaha means my supreme instruction. So real instruction means what is the most confidential instruction? Here Krishna is saying, I'm telling you the most confidential instruction. Giving knowledge that is better than what I have already explained. So you see, so he is revealing this confidential instruction, and that confidential instruction means to facilitate to facilitate our remembrance of him. And why does he reveal these things? Priyamanaya, because you are very dear to me. Usually, a person reveals secrets only to person whom who is close to him. So this is Krishna is saying, I am telling you this because Priyamanaya, you are very dear to me. Now we are not as dear to Krishna. Of course, as father, he loves everyone, but we have not been so obedient like Arjuna. And this is why we cannot have access to Bhagavad-gītā directly, but through the mercy of a devotee who is dear to Krishna, we also get the knowledge of Bhagavad-gītā. You see, Krishna is saying here that I am revealing to you, Arjuna, because you are very dear to me. But then now we have access to that, although we are not as dear to Krishna. This is the benefit of going through the devotees to Krishna. Because Krishna would have otherwise not shown as much mercy towards us. But when it comes through a devotee, Krishna made all arrangements. See, Krishna actually made arrangement for the Bhagavad-gītā to continue. But in the Bhagavad-gītā, he spoke for confidential instruction like this. So if we accept Arjuna and his way of acceptance of Krishna, then we will have access to this most confidential knowledge. Of course, Krishna is also very smart, right? Of course, he is smart. So he will not access himself or make himself accessible. One second. Krishna will not make himself accessible to those who are not his devotees. That's why, even though a person may read Bhagavad Gita, if he is not a devotee, he will not come to the same conclusion that, thinking of Krishna will get us all perfection. He will not believe in this. So, although he's saying Paramam Vachaha, I'm speaking you supreme instruction because you are my Priyamanaya, Bhakto se me sakha cheti, rahasyam hetaduttamam. So he's saying all these things. You are my friend and devotee, therefore I am revealing to you all the secrets. Although and then he's telling a secret, and then he arranged for its recording, and now we have access. Still, it can remain a secret if we don't approach it in the right attitude. If we don't accept Arjuna's way of acceptance of Krishna. What is Arjuna's way of acceptance of Krishna? Sarvam etadritam manye yanmam vadasi Keshava. First thing he said that, Krishna, I accept totally whatever you say as truth. So that is the first criterion of how to accept Krishna in order for us to understand him. Without any reservation, without any intervention of our puny intellectual capacity, we have to accept fully what Krishna is saying. We cannot argue that, oh, my experience or my thought process does not allow me to accept this statement of Krishna. No, your thought process, your experience is useless. That's the point here. We are full of defects. We cannot really experience or ponder over anything without our intellectual, capacity coming into play. And our intellectual capacity is very limited. So we shouldn't be so proud of our tiny brains. So we should accept totally what Krishna is saying, even if it appears um, counterintuitive to us or absurd to us, to our tiny experience. So that is the first thing, first way of accepting Krishna. Second thing is um, Karishe Vachanam Tava. Karishe Vachanam Tava. I will do whatever you say. Now, in psychology, there is this what is that phrase? Cognitive bias. Cognitive bias is when you have yeah, cognitive bias. So which does not allow you to see the truth right in front of it. This is what they say. Even though you are seeing it, you're unable to accept what you're seeing because you have been fed a narrative, and therefore you cannot see what is obvious to others. Even though it is right in front of your eyes, you choose to believe what you heard and not what you see. And that is the classic definition of a cult consciousness or fanaticism or cognitive bias, a sign of being brainwashed, um, psychologically manipulated. All these terms they use. Now, um, Maya has her ways of deluding everyone, and it is not so easy to understand Maya just because I can see something. I cannot see the real thing. My senses are incapable of grasping everything that there is. We are given a very limited layer of perception. There is so much to it, so much to reality, and we are only given a slice of that with our present senses. We are allowed to access only a thin slice of that entire reality. So that is the reason why we cannot fully depend on our senses. And when we say Brahma Pramad Vipralipsa Karana Pata, so these four defects of the tendency to commit mistakes, the tendency to be disillusioned, the tendency to cheat, and imperfect perception. These four things disqualify us to actually perfectly observe something or experience something. Mistakes, illusions, cheating, and defective perception do not occur in the sayings of the great authoritative sages who have risen above cognitive dissonance. Oh, is that the one? Okay. Yeah, I think that's the one. Cognitive bias is a little bit different. Cognitive dissonance. Yes, this is the word they use. So this is, you know, um, something which people say that we are being fed, but this may be a valid consideration when you're hearing from an imperfect person. You should always be critical whether I'm hearing the right thing. Who is this? you know. So we should be always be critical. But when the speaker is Sri Bhagavan Vacha, Bhagavan himself, then we should throw away such criticism. We should unreservedly we should hear what he has to say. And how are we sure that it is Bhagavan who spoke these things and not anyone else who made it up? Well, Bhagavan, I mean, Vyasadeva is an incarnation of Bhagavan and he is the one who wrote it. And is established and accepted by perfected sages such as Narada Muni, Vyasadeva, Asita, Devala, and all the great acharyas who are greatly accomplished in this whole science of self realization. So, we have to accept, just like we say, Albert Einstein said so and so, right? So, or some thought leader or some kind of scientist, he accepted such and such version, and therefore, we better accept it because he is way more intelligent than us, and that's how even in scientific circles it is presented. Some great authority accepts it, then it's kind of justified that we can also accept it. Um, 1 second. Okay, so um, I think some references are mentioned here. What is this? 1154. What is that all about? Very nice. दूरे हरिकथाः केचित् दूरे चाच्युतकीर्तनाः स्त्रियः शूद्रादयश्चैव तेऽनुकम्प्या भवादृशाम्. There are many persons who have little opportunity to take part in discussions about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, and thus it is difficult for them to chant His infallible glories. Persons such as women, Shudras, and other fallen classes always deserve the mercy of great personalities like yourself. Yes, this is a nice one. So, 1330, what is that? Oh, this is Vyasadev? No, this is connections, right? एतद्रूपं भगवतो ह्यरूपस्य चिदात्मनः मया गुणैर्विरचितं महदादिभिरात्मने. Conception of the Virat universal form of the Lord in the material world is imaginary. It is to enable the less intelligent and neophytes to adjust to the idea of the Lord's having form. But factually, the Lord has no material form. And then this one. Yes, so that's the beginning of Krishna consciousness. यतो प्राप्यन्यवर्तन्त वाचश्च मनसा सह अहं चान्य इमे देवास्तस्मै भगवते नमः. Words, mind, and ego, with their respective controlling demigods, have failed to achieve success in knowing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, we simply have to offer our respectful obeisances unto Him as a matter of sanity. So, um, coming back to this point, so these we have these defects. So, instead of saying cognitive dissonance and immediately jumping to that phrase and saying that you're not accepting what is right in front of you, we should understand that we are incapable of handling or perceiving the entire truth. For example, Prabhupada gave a very simple example. Suppose you open a car bonnet, and suppose a car is broken down and it's not moving, and something is wrong with the engine, something. So you open the bonnet and look at the engine. You don't understand anything. But then when the mechanic comes, he opens and says, "Oh yeah, okay." So he just does something and then finish. The car starts moving. Now, both are seeing. Somebody is seeing and he is understanding something and we are not understanding anything. So is seeing the same thing? We should know, and with that knowledge, so this mechanic, he has the same eyes and he's seeing the exact same things that as I am seeing, but he knows what is going on and I do not know what is going on, because his eyes are trained in knowledge, because he knows how everything works. And there, with that knowledge, when he looks at it, then he knows, okay, what is out of place here. Then he knows how to fix that. So we should know how everything works. So we have to have prior knowledge. It's just a crude example, but it gives an idea. So Krishna is the creator of everything, and when he comes and speaks, and it is not some bogus god we are accepting, who is accepted by great acharyas who are themselves greatly accomplished. So that authorized God we are accepting, not some any somebody who's saying on the street that I'm God, I'm accepting him now. Oh, he's also Sri Bhagavan Vacha. No, we're not saying that. So we're accepting the authorized God who also displayed his uncommon activities and who is speaking. So we're accepting that person's words. So this is not cognitive dissonance. In fact, the persons who say like that, they are actually displaying their hubris. Hubris means excessive pride in their own sensory capacity, which is very, very tiny. It's completely incapable of understanding God. Okay? Okay, so Bhagavan Uvacha. So Parashar Muni defines Bhagavan. ऐश्वर्यस्य समग्रस्य वीर्यस्य यशसः श्रियः ज्ञानवैराग्ययोश्चैव षण्णां भग इतिङ्गुणा. So jnana is one of the six opulences of Bhagavan, and he has it in infinite quantity. So when he is speaking, we better listen. Yeah. Okay. So while Krishna was present on this earth, yes, he displayed all six opulences. So previously, now Krishna is instructing Arjuna in more confidential knowledge of his opulences and his work. And so why he is instructing him in this? Because understanding Krishna means to understand his form, name, qualities, pastimes, his opulences, his work, his devotees, everything. It's not just knowing him means knowing what then. If you want to know somebody, what does it mean to know someone? To know how his body is constructed? Well, bodily features is one thing only. Then what he does? What, um, where is he from? What is his place? And what is his skills? Who are his friends? Who are his, if he has enemies? So we that is called knowing something, knowing someone. So similarly, Krishna, to know him means to know how his energies are um, working. Understanding Krishna means understanding him and his energies as well. You cannot separate that. So he is describing in this chapter. Previously, beginning with the seventh chapter, the Lord has already explained his different energies and how they're acting. Now, in this chapter, he explains his specific opulences to Arjuna. In the previous chapter, he has clearly explained his different energies to establish devotion and firm conviction. Again, in this chapter, he tells Arjuna about his manifestations and various opulences. You know, um, for example, the gopis, they are not interested in this knowledge, they just love him. Here, he is having to explain his opulences because we we take something seriously when there is opulence attached to it. You know, now any of the six opulences, if it is attached to it, we will become serious about it or we will pay attention. For example, now we are doing this live stream. About 27 of you are online, live at the moment. Now, if I was in some popular podcast somewhere, the views will be much higher because the opulence of fame of someone is attached to it. So, when there is opulence somewhere, people pay attention, even though sometimes it is not worthy to pay attention there. But just because there is an opulence there, it is, people pay attention. Well, you may say in these live streams we share the topmost knowledge, and jnana is one of the opulences. Well, that unless one is really hungry for that knowledge, the most attractive of opulences are Aishwarya, which is wealth. Wealth, Virya, strength is immediately attractive. Yasha, fame, and Shriya, beauty. But knowledge and renunciation are not that easily appreciated. In a society of ignorance, ignorant fools, knowledge is a folly. As they say, what is that saying? It is a folly to be wise, where ignorance is bliss. So it is a folly to be wise, where ignorance is bliss. So in a society filled with ignorance, if somebody is wise, he's seen as a strange guy. What is wrong with you? Why aren't you a fool like us? Of course, they don't think they are fools, but that's how it is seen. So, jnana and vairagya. Vairagya also people like what? Vairagya. I mean, there is some element of attraction to it because monk means wow, he has given up. That's not an easy thing to do. Okay, people have some respect for it, but to imbibe that in their own life, that is something because they're up for sense gratification here in this material world, and that's why real jnana um, is not immediately attractive to the ignorant, conditioned soul. But the other four are readily attractive: wealth, strength, um, fame, and beauty. So, Krishna is explaining in this 10th chapter how his power is exhibited in this world. Like, for example, he says, I am among the fish, I am the shark, among the animals, I am the lion. So, we can see at least the power of the lion, we can see the power of the shark, and at least not like maybe directly, but at least in National Geographic channel or something like that, we can see. So, of course, when Krishna spoke it, and there was no National Geographic channel, but of course, there were way more number of lions then. And anyway, people knew what the power of a lion was, and even now people know. So that's it. That is strength and something which is beautiful. So all these things Krishna gives a description of, or a hint of his greatness through these things. And of course, finally, in this chapter, at the end, he says, "What is the use of all these explanations? I can give you a million such as examples. Um, in short, the entire universe is pervaded or and sustained by a single fragment of my energies." He lifted the Govardhan hill with his little finger of his left hand. A single fragment of his, energy was used to lift up the Govardhan hill, but that is nothing. The entire universes and material and spiritual everything is being sustained on a fragment of his energies. So that is and he is not even putting any finger. He's just, they just existing on his thought alone. So that is his power. So actually, the power of a lion or a shark is nothing compared to Krishna's power. But because we cannot start to imagine what is great power, the frog in the well philosophy. What is that? Andha Kupa. What is that? Kupa Manduka Nyaya. Kupa Manduka Nyaya means the frog in the well. So the frog in the well has no idea how big the Pacific Ocean is. And therefore, he will only try to calculate the Pacific Ocean in terms of the size of the well. Now that is foolishness. But you know what, Krishna, how kind he is? Even though we can only calculate in terms of our well, of our experience, and not the infinite Pacific Ocean, um, he gives examples that are astonishing enough to us to accept the greatness or the supremacy of Krishna, to begin with. Something that is accessible to our imagination. Uh, so it actually, it is, I mean, when he is sustaining the entire material world and the spiritual world by a fragment of his energies, what is the power of a lion compared to that? It is insignificant, for example, right? It's insignificant, but he says, among the animals, I'm the lion. That is um, a massive, if not a colossal understatement. You know, so it's it it is not even close. It's not even close. A lion is just an ordinary soul, you know, infinitesimal soul, and he is the infinite Lord. So there's nothing that can actually compare to his power. But then again, we don't have capacity to understand his power. So when Krishna makes such understatements, or he makes himself imaginable or accessible to us, that is his mercy upon us. You know, Archa Vigraha, he is standing as a deity in the temple, right? As if he doesn't know how to dress himself when he is Suvasa. Suvasa means he's an expert dresser. But he's standing as if he doesn't know how to dress himself and is just waiting for us to dress him. He's acting so helpless and so reachable and so accessible to us, to our gross senses, just to give us a facility to serve him. So when he bends down for us, we should not take him to be actually lowly. Oh, he's just an ordinary person. He's not. Oh, he's just an extraordinary person. No, he's not. He's a supreme person. Extraordinary is just a little bit above our ordinary, a little bit extra. No, supreme. Supreme means it's infinitely greater than us. That is his real position. You know, so that is Krishna's actual position. But we are unable to grasp that. So when he gives us facility to grasp something with our gross senses or with our mind, to imagine something about Krishna's opulence, and thus meditate on Krishna, that is what Krishna wants us do, because that will benefit us. What will actually benefit us? To think of Krishna always. The gopis don't need this knowledge of his opulences. In fact, they're not interested in his opulences, they're just interested in him. Um, of course, it is a wrong statement, even that is a wrong statement. Because you cannot be not interested in his opulences. But the attraction towards Krishna is so great, they accept all the greatness of even Lord Narayana, the four-handed Narayana form. They have full respect. But the intimate relation they have with Krishna is far above that respect and that complete adoration they have, or complete submission they have towards Narayana. Towards Krishna is also its submission, but it's in a different flavor. Um, in other words, they are already aware of this. And see, for example, a devotee. Um, he is not too surprised at anything. Oh, something is so wonderful. He immediately gives credit to God, to Krishna. If it's that wonderful, that is the creation of Krishna. You know, Prabhupada went on he was on the ship on the way to America, and then he looked at the ocean, and vast ocean, and he was saying, Govinda Jaya Jaya, Gopal Jaya Jaya. So why is he saying that? Because the vast ocean, which is so infinitely almost expanded everywhere, is completely under the control of Govinda. He's not only controlling Gopal means herder of cows. He's not just controlling cows, he's controlling the entire ocean, the entire universe. The ocean is also so powerful, it doesn't go beyond the beach because on the order of Krishna. So, how powerful is Krishna? So, he's holding this ocean in its place. So, that is Krishna consciousness. Now, how it is being held there, what are the laws, what are the forces acting on it? Scientists are trying to understand everything as if they can explain with these forces and everything, but they actually cannot explain. They cannot explain because ultimately it's Krishna's will, and if he wants, he can disturb the balance, and then one tsunami comes, and then the whole city is wiped out. And he can, in fact, inundate the entire landmass if he wants. He's just not doing it. That's all. If he wants, he can do it. So, um, of course, scientists may say tectonic plate, you know, movement or whatever. Who is moving the tectonic plate there? Who is behind all these processes that we say are natural occurrences? When we say natural, that means something way beyond our power. But actually, the demigods are handling these things, and demigods are puppets in the hands of Krishna. So Krishna is doing this all through these agents. So yeah, I see. Prabhupada would smell the jasmine flowers and say, "This is Krishna." So that is, see, it's very simple. Uh, the smell of jasmine, where is it coming from? It is extracted from the earth. Every tree, every plant takes the same ingredients but produces different things. Where is it coming from? The same Panchabhuta, the earth, water, fire, air, ether, everything is the same. But then different fragrances, different tastes are coming out. What is the difference? The seed. Bijaham sarvabhutanam. I am the seed, a seed of all existences. So what is there in the seed? If you cut open, you cannot find any code there. Of course, they say DNA now. Now even that DNA is, where is it coming from? Because you know every person has a different DNA, right? Although human beings are the same species, or even plants have different DNA, but the fruit taste is similar, or the flower smell is similar. So there is similarity and uniqueness at the same time. Each and everyone is unique. Like everyone, our fingerprints all are unique. Our experiences, our situation, psychophysical situation, everything is different, unique. But at the same time, we are part of one species who have a pattern. How much variety there is in Krishna's creation. His opulences are infinite, actually. These are just like, giving us a glimpse, getting us started on how to actually think of Krishna always. Man mana. Man mana means always think of me. He doesn't just say that and then leave. He gives us practical advice on how to think of Krishna. You know, the more one hears about the Supreme God, the more one becomes fixed in devotional service. So, Shravanada Shuddha Chitte Kore Uday Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhya Kabhun Noy. So, Chaitanya Charitamrita author, he says, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says, Jai Krishna Tattvavit, no, not the, Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhya Kabhun Noy. It means Krishna consciousness is not to be attained or achieved artificially, something imposition. No, it's not some external imposition on the mind to impose some idea on the mind. No, it is a natural thing which already is there, and it is now had to be revived. And Prabhupada explains this very nicely in the Science of Self-Realization book as well. How to how do we know that Krishna consciousness is within us, and it is not something that is fed to us? How do we know? So Prabhupada explains very beautifully. Everyone has attraction for the opposite sex, right? For example, now a man gets attached to a woman or a woman gets attached to a man, and they get married. So now this man is attracted to this woman. What is there in that woman that attracts the man? Of course, you may say qualities and all these things, um, uh, the way she does this, or things, or serves, or her attitude, or whatever, or her beauty, whatever. Now, all those are fine, but they only exist because the soul is there in that body, right? So the attraction for the body of the woman is only there because of the presence of the soul. Otherwise, there's no attraction. Nobody's attracted to a dead body. Um, so, what makes the body attractive? Or you may say, not, it's just not the body, it's the qualities, it's the person. Well, that is a subtle body then. The mental situation, the intellectual situation. That is the subtle body. So, we are attracted to the gross and the subtle body of the woman, or for the woman, it's the man. Now, that attraction for the body is there only because of the presence of the soul. Otherwise, the body would just decompose, and the subtle body will not even be there. The gross body will just decompose, right? And one is not attracted to that. So the thing that makes the body attractive, the person attractive, is the soul, or atma. Soul, actually, the English definition, of course, we use because, see, actually, devotee, an acharya, he purifies even language. Soul means, in English language, the most important part of something. That is the soul. But here, we are not even part of the body. We are a completely different entity. We are not the body, atma, the self. We are the atma, and the body is. We are not part of the body. We are complete self. We are the atma. So the soul is not an exact translation, but we will mend that. I mean, we will make it the exact translation, because language is always inadequate to describe anything, um, especially spiritual matters. And Sanskrit is more closer to such culture, but other languages may fall, much behind in being able to describe such transcendental matters, because it was not in their culture or what for a long, long time. But we will introduce it, and we will purify. We will refine the definitions of even those words of those language, by introducing this transcendental culture. Now, the soul is the most attractive feature in the body. And why is the soul attractive? Because he is an infinitesimal part and parcel. Mamaivamsho jivaloke jivabhutah sanatanaha. So he is an infinitesimal part and parcel of the supreme soul, Krishna. That is the only reason why the soul is attractive and why the body is attractive. So actually, our attraction is for the, if even the minute part and parcel of the supreme infinite soul of Krishna is so attractive to us, that we have dedicated our entire life to serve that person, right? So how much more attractive Krishna is? But only because we have lost our understanding of him, lost our memory of him, we have settled for such a gross representation of that supreme person, Krishna. First of all, instead of being attracted to Krishna, we are attracted to an infinitesimal part and parcel of him, and not even his infinitesimal part and parcel, the material body that is covering that infinitesimal part and parcel. We cannot even see that. We only see the body and we get attracted to the body. But it is only because if we trace back the reason for such attraction, it will come back to Krishna. And because we are now unaware of him, so and therefore we are just attracted to the very, very insignificant portion of his energies, which is one single person's body. So this proves that our original attraction for Krishna is already there, and it is being manifested in what we are able to perceive at the moment to a person or to somebody. So that is already there, you see. So in this way, Prabhupada beautifully explained that our karma, or lust for a particular person is actually a transformation of our love for Krishna. You know, if only we knew the Supreme Krishna, we would love him for his benefit. But now I want to enjoy with this and I love that person. I say I love, but actually because that person gives me happiness. And therefore it's lust. And so it's a very, very gross, perverted representation of our original love for Krishna. It has metamorphosized, metamorphosized or whatever to karma. It has changed into karma, which is abominable actually. So the more one hears about the Supreme God, the more one becomes fixed in devotional service. So let's actually go to that verse. So I quoted it. नित्य सिद्ध कृष्ण प्रेम साधक भुनाय श्रवणादि शुद्ध चित्ते Koraya Uday. Pure love for Krishna is eternally established in the hearts of the living entities. It is not something to be gained from another source. When the heart is purified by hearing and chanting, this love naturally awakens. So, this is the point. This is why hearing is very important. So, what happens when we hear? Our original link, our original knowledge and relationship with Krishna is re established. Oh, I'm attracted to all these part and parcels and the bodies of the external bodies of the parts and parcels, in fact, and the qualities that they're displaying out of the influence of the three modes of material nature, which is again Krishna's energy. So I should be attracted to the actual source of all these things. I should go to the source of all these things and get attracted to Krishna himself. What happens when we get attracted to Krishna? Then automatically our love for everything that is related to Krishna manifests. So that's why a devotee, he can give his entire life for the service of Krishna and for the preaching mission, because he sees everybody as a servant of Krishna. Everybody is related to Krishna, because once you re-establish your connection with Krishna, then you will then you will immediately realize that every single person that exists, whether in the human body or animal body, germ's body, he has a similar relationship with Krishna like we do, intimate relation with Krishna. So then we begin to see, wow, they are all suffering because of lack of this knowledge. Let me, share this knowledge with them. So that's where the compassion comes from, the knowledge of Krishna. So this is why how to think of him and how he's related to energies is important for us to know, especially in the preliminary stage. Um, so Krishna is showing some of his opulences, which we can realize, which we can imagine and understand. So it's kind of a show off, little bit of a show. It's not too much of a show off, but it's a kind of a show off. Okay, this is the lion's power is me, and any ability in man, any strong, that is me. So in this way, all these great things that exist in the world are actually my doing. Again, it looks like pride, it looks like show off, but he doesn't need his vairagya. He's completely aloof from that. He's telling these things so that we can start thinking about him. It is in our benefit, for our benefit, that he's speaking like that, never out of pride. Pride is, again, I already said this in my Chaitanya Charitamrita class. Pride is when I have too much estimation of myself, too high estimation of myself, way beyond my actual existence. So that is pride. I think I'm too big, I'm too, influential, or I'm too great. Actually, we are nothing. Whatever we even do, it's only because Krishna has invested something in us, and that's why we are able to do. So ultimately, Krishna should get all the credit, right? So what we think. So that is pride. When there is a false idea of ownership, nirmamaha. So aham mamata. Mamata means when I think it's mine. That is pride, because it's not mine. But when Krishna says, this is me, and all this is created by me, and the sun is rising. Okay, let me show you this. Even more direct. मद्भयाद् वाति वातोऽयं सूर्यस्तपति मद्भयात् वर्षतीन्द्रो दहत्यग्निर्मृत्युश्चरति मद्भयात्. This is how much of a so-called show-off statement you see. It is because of my supremacy that the wind blows, out of fear of me. The sun shines out of fear of me, and the Lord of the clouds, Indra, sends forth showers out of fear of me. Fire burns out of fear of me, and death goes about taking its toll out of fear of me. Look at that statement. Is that not like absolute pride? No, it's just fact. So when Krishna says, he can say the greatest thing, whatever, he can claim anything because that is just a fact. And if he's not saying that, he is being humble. That's all. Or he's just not revealing himself because we are not capable of, you know, or we are not favorably disposed towards him, and that's why he just doesn't tell. But when he tells anything, he can never be. There's no pride in Krishna. It's only a false display of pride. We in our estimation it may be pride, but it's not. For him, it's just fact. No. So the pure souls are eternally in love with Krishna, and this permanent love, either as a servant, friend, parent, or conjugal love, is not at all. Oh, pardon me. Reading some other. Okay, the more one hears about the Supreme God, the more one becomes fixed in devotional service. One should always hear about the Lord in the association of devotees. That will enhance one's devotional service. Discourses in the society of devotees can take place only among those who are really anxious to be in Krishna consciousness. Can we like highlight that? Others cannot take part in such discourses. Who can take part? Those who are really anxious to be in Krishna consciousness. This is the thing. Even in the lecture, you may sit, but you will not absorb as much if you are not anxious to hear about Krishna. If we are anxious to hear about Krishna, sometimes I see this. Um, Morning kirtan finishes, or evening kirtan finishes. Class is just going to start. Some devotees ask, Prabhu, who is giving class? So sometimes, if I'm in the mood, I will say, how does it matter? How does it matter? You want to decide whether you want to sit for the class or not because who is speaking or not? Is that the reason why you're asking? How does it matter? If it's a class on Bhagavad-gītā, just sit there. If it's a class on Srimad Bhagavatam, just sit there. Why you worry about the speaker? No, 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 that speaker doesn't explain properly. This speaker explains properly. Whatever it is, we can always learn something. And when we disrespect like that, then it just shows that we are not anxious enough to hear about Krishna. We should be anxious to hear about Krishna. And if we are, then whatever we hear, there is always immense lessons to take away from every discourse. But we should be anxious to hear. Vasudeva Katha Ruchi. There has to be ruchi, taste for hearing. How do we get the taste if I don't have? Well, I should serve the devotees. I'm not making it up, it's actually there in the Bhagavatam. Sorry. शुश्रूषोः श्रद्दधानस्य वासुदेवकथारुचिः स्यान्महत्सेवया विप्राः पुण्यतीर्थनिषेवणात्. Put born sages. By serving those devotees who are completely freed from all vice, great service is done. By such service, one gains affinity for hearing the messages of Vasudeva. The reason why we are not attracted, we are not anxious to hear about Krishna, is because of our sinful reactions. We're not. Because yesham tu antagatam papam jananam punya karmanam te dvandvamoha nirmukta bhajante mam dridhavrataha. See, Krishna says, who can actually be determined in this path of Krishna consciousness, whether it is hearing, chanting, or serving, or remembering, all these things, we require determination. It's not just a 1 day, 1 week affair, right? It should be sustainable over a long period of time. And we should do it for long, long, long periods of time. So, that determination to stay on the path it happens for persons like this. See, persons who have acted piously in previous lives and in this life, and whose sinful actions are completely eradicated, are freed from the dualities of delusion, and they engage themselves in my service with determination. So one has to be sufficiently purified in order to take his service, in order to take to the service of Krishna with determination, right? So now I'm not purified. So what to do? How can I purify myself? My previous life was full of sin. My previous lives were full of sin. Even in this life, there was so much sin happened. So how to purify myself and how to stay determined? Well, Krishna offers a shortcut, and that shortcut is this: by service to devotees, one becomes cleansed of lifetimes and lifetimes of contamination, and one becomes qualified and pure enough to become determined in the hearing process, and the hearing will lead to every other process. Hearing, once you hear, then you're convinced, then you chant, then you remember, then you serve the Lord, offer him prayers and everything. Your whole life becomes Krishna conscious, beginning with the hearing process. And that beginning of the hearing itself, if we don't have the affinity, if we don't have the eagerness, the anxiety to hear, if we don't have, then it's a sorry state of affairs. And that means we are full of sinful, you know, mentality. All the reactions of our sins, past sins, are acting. You see, Prabhupada is ultimately, supremely purifying, right? His association is very purifying. Well, he went to America. Not everyone became as dedicated as of a devotee as the dedicated devotees, right? He met so many people. He spoke to reporters. He spoke to police commissioner. He spoke to some religious leaders of other religious faiths. And not everybody took with the same earnestness, right? What is blocking them? Is Prabhupada the only factor, or something else is also there as a factor? Because if Prabhupada is the only factor, everyone should be similarly purified. But no, because there is another factor, which is their own purification. How much they are willing to serve Prabhupada. And those who took to the service of Prabhupada, no matter how sinful they were, they immediately got purified. Shuddhanti tasmai prabhavishnave namaha. Kirata honandra pulinda pulkusha abhir shumbha yavanah kasadayah. Yenye cha papa yadapashraya shraya shuddhanti tasmai prabhavishnave namaha. So, this Shuddhanti happens by serving the devotee. See, all this Piratas, Honas, Andhras, Pulindas, all these, Antyajas, lower than Shudras, and even others addicted to sinful acts can be purified by taking shelter of the devotees of the Lord due to His being the supreme power. I beg to offer my respectful obeisances unto Him. So, this is the shortcut. If we want purification from lifetimes of sins, which we all have, right? Millions of lifetimes of nonsense, rubbish we have done. So all that sins are accumulated and it is acting on us, and that's why we are unable to take to this process seriously. How to counteract? Serve the devotees. Serve the devotees. Then, yes. Because people always think that, oh, I will serve, but first I want to be sure that, I'm serving the right person. So, there is no doubt regarding Prabhupada. Start serving him. So once this happened, I think Gargamuni and Brahmananda, they're both brothers actually. Prabhupada disciples. So one of them, I think it was Gargamuni, who became devotee first, and then Brahmananda was a little bit skeptical. He was coming to the 26 Second Avenue, the first storefront that Prabhupada had in New York, and the programs there. He was coming because his brother was going there, so he was coming there, and everybody bows down to Prabhupada. He was just seeing, and then he was not doing it. So Gargamuni wanted him to bow down as well. So he said, "Well, I will do it if I feel like. When I feel it, I will do it." Then Gargamuni was unable to convince him. Then one day, he just brought him to Prabhupada, oh, this is my brother, and oh, nice, Prabhupada. Then Gargamuni said to Prabhupada, he says one thing that, when he feels like bowing down, then he would start bowing down. But he want to feel that greatness, that power in you, and then, he will start to bow down. Then Prabhupada said, you bow down, then you will feel. There's a shift, complete shift. And it's a very, very important lesson for all of us, because we want Krishna to show the step first, and then we will. But actually, Krishna already showed the step. We are still not taking. We want another step, another step. So until when will Krishna answer our demands? What is the step that Krishna showed us? He already showed us. He came as, he gave us Prabhupada. He gave us Prabhupada's books. He gave us the association of devotees. When he already gave all these things, and we still want to test on something else, no, I want to see your step as well. Krishna wants to see our step. When we submit, okay, I will bless you with more advancement. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhiyogam. He never said dadami buddhiyogam and then you engage in yourself in my service. No. Those who are engaged in my service, to them I will give the intelligence. So it acts in the reverse order. So that means submission is required. Not always is challenging and critical mentality. That's not a favorable way to approach Krishna consciousness. We should be critical of everything in this world. Yes, we should not immediately accept anything. But when it comes to Krishna consciousness, and when the authenticity of the Acharya and the knowledge is established, then we should submit. Okay, this is reveal knowledge, and it is making sense. And actually, also the devotees, even, for example, people start coming to the temple, and then they start attending the classes. And when they start to attend the classes, they are not yet submitted themselves, right? But devotees give them the opportunity to hear. And by preliminary faith, actually, the reason why the audience sit there is also because they have some faith, at least something there. Okay, let me hear about Krishna. So that itself is a favor, because they can always choose to spend their time otherwise. They can choose to spend their time anywhere else. But they're attending the lecture. That means they have some faith. That itself is a initial sign of submission. So when that submission is there, then there is access to knowledge. And when there is access to some knowledge, and when I find that, oh wow, this actually makes sense, I've never heard something like this. So then, okay, then we have to submit more. Of course, there are so many bogus gurus out there. And that's why, if our intentions are genuine, if we really want spiritual advancement, and without anything, without any personal agenda, then Krishna, seeing our sincerity, he will direct us to the proper guru. Otherwise, if you want to be cheated, then he will lead us to the cheating guru as well. So that is also there. So sincerity is what counts, because Krishna detects that, and then he'll make the arrangements. So we can become completely purified just by serving the devotees, being in the association of devotees, and then we will have Vasudeva Katha Ruchi. Then we'll be anxious to hear about Krishna, anxious to be in Krishna consciousness, anxious to improve our own Krishna consciousness. So these things will happen if, and then for those people, these discourses and the reading of books is very, very fruitful. Otherwise, You're just reading because the devotees asked me to read every day. Okay, you know what? I'll open the page. Yeah, okay, okay, okay. Sleep. No, that's not the way. We have to be engaged in. When we're reading, we have to actively engage ourselves. Question. Okay, if you have some doubts, okay, question. Note down the questions. Take a notebook. Keep a notebook when you're reading, a small notebook, and write down the questions you have. If something is not clear, okay, write down and read it again. There's no problem in reading it again. And if I understood it correctly, wow. And if I like something, I can read it all over again. Again, wow, that's super explanation. Okay, so I can note that down somewhere. And then if something is not clear, okay, and then eventually when I'm reading, that will also be answered in that reading itself sometimes. And if I sometimes can't, and I can always ask devotees later on. So I should be actively engaged with what I'm reading. And when we're hearing also, we should actively be engaged. And that will be very beneficial. Others cannot take part in such discourses. See this? If we are not anxious, we cannot take part in discourse. We can be physically present but mentally absent. So that's what happens. They're actually not taking part in the discourse because they're having a discourse with their own mind and or chatting with someone. I also see this. I mean, sometimes devotees just sit down and then their mind is somewhere else and then they're doing something else there and then chatting among themselves sometimes. That's not good. The Lord clearly tells Arjuna that because Arjuna is very dear to him, for his benefit, such discourses are taking place. See? So now, wow, we're at 9:30 mark, 9:25. I do not think I'll be able to go to even verse number 2. I think I'll have to stop here because that is, I mean, actually a whole subject. So I think I will stop it right here. Only 10:1 today. I have to change the title of the class as well. So, yeah. So that's the point. So I'd like to stop here. Any questions or comments on this topic? 11:33. What is that? ज्ञात्वा ज्ञात्वाथ ये वैमां यावान् यश्चास्मि यादृशः भजन्त्यनन्यभावेन ते मे भक्ततमा मताः. My devotees may or may not know exactly what I am, who I am, and how I exist. But if they worship me with unalloyed love, then I consider them to be the best of devotees. This is beautiful. Actually, Prabhu used to show this verse. I completely forgot about it. You know what? I am a learner as well. So I'm just noting down these verses. Okay. So this is important. So this is the thing. They may or may not know exactly what I am, who I am, and how I exist. So we cannot really understand him entirely, but we should understand him enough for us to agree to serve him. And then once we engage in the service, then the service will reveal everything to us as much as is required again. And you know, in that way, we will be absorbed and immersed in such service and our life becomes successful. Prem Kumar is asking, my humblest question is after killing Kamsa, the Bhagwan revealed four-handed form till his avatar ended. Great Ramanuja also confirms this in Gita Bhashyam. Um, there's no such thing, but even Bhishmadev saw the four-handed form um, of the Lord when he describes it in Bhagavatam 1, Canto 1, Chapter 9. Now, he appears to different people in different way. Understand? So, although he was two-armed form in Krishna, came as Krishna, to those who want to see him as four-armed, he would appear to them like that. Ye yathamam prapadyanti tam tathaiva bhajamyaham. So, there are so many intricacies, but so there is nothing contradictory because all 400 forms of the Lord are within the 200 form of Krishna. So there's nothing contradictory in that. Why sometimes devotees attend a class but at the same time they're distracted by something else? What they are lacking? Seriousness? Yeah, seriousness. Seriousness is what is lacking. Because we don't take it seriously at all. And it happens because of material association. And especially nowadays, the handphone is a huge distraction. So one is getting, influenced by such association and is losing his taste even more for devotional service. Parshuram Prabhu saying anartha. Yeah. Anartha means artha means the goal. Anartha means something which is distraction from the goal of life. So yeah, it is because of anarthas we get attracted to anartha. Okay, so I will end it here. Thank you very much. Thank you all very much for attending. We will continue with the next verse in the next class. जय श्रीमद् भगवद गीता की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय, निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे, हरि हरि बोल, हरे कृष्णा.